Welcome to our channel. We're so glad you're here. In today's story, we'll be diving into an unforgettable moment outside Buckingham Palace. A cocky biker's challenge to a royal guard that didn't go quite as he planned. Trust us, the outcome will leave you speechless. Before we get started, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below and let us know. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next exciting tale coming tomorrow. Stay tuned and let's get into it. This biker tried to show his strength, but the royal guard had a powerful response. The royal guards outside Buckingham Palace are more than just ceremonial figures. They are a living embodiment of British tradition and discipline. Clad in their bright red uniforms with towering bearskin hats, they stand still as statues day after day, protecting the monarchy and maintaining the solemnity of the royal grounds. To the millions of tourists who visit each year, these guards appear almost like fixed landmarks, part of the timeless landscape of London. But what many don't realize is that these guards are not just there for show. They are highly trained soldiers, prepared for far more than simply standing in place. Beneath their seemingly unbreakable stoic exteriors lies a world of discipline, dedication, and sometimes incredible physical and mental endurance. The Royal Guards are part of the British Army's elite household division, and their duties go far beyond what meets the eye. Yes, they wear the iconic uniform and stand motionless, but they are trained to handle real-life situations. In fact, these guards are active-duty soldiers, capable of being deployed in combat zones if necessary. While many people assume their role is purely ceremonial, these guards undergo the same intense training as soldiers in any other division of the military. This isn't just about looking the part, it's about being ready to fight when the moment calls for it. Throughout history, royal guards have been called upon to serve in combat situations, defending British interests in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. Their training includes combat tactics, weapons handling, and survival skills, which are crucial when they are called to serve in times of war. One striking example occurred in 1982, during the Falklands War, when members of the Household Division were deployed to defend British interests in the South Atlantic. The misconception that these guards are merely decorative could not be further from the truth. But the Royal Guard's role isn't just about being battle-ready. It's about maintaining a level of discipline that few could ever imagine. Tourists may take photos, some may try to provoke them, but these guards remain unflinching. They must ignore distractions, whether it's a loud crowd, annoying comments, or even someone trying to make them smile. Their job is to stay in position, no matter what. And that's where the true test of their training lies. It's not just about looking good in a uniform. It's about upholding the dignity of the monarchy and the country. The training to be a royal guard is rigorous and unyielding. These soldiers are taught to remain still for hours, maintaining perfect posture without any sign of discomfort. The weight of the bearskin hat alone is enough to cause strain, yet they stand motionless for hours, despite the heavy heat or bitter cold. The uniform itself is designed to maintain a sharp uniform appearance, but underneath that coat of red and gold lies a soldier who has endured countless hours of training in various weather conditions, mastering the art of self-control and endurance. But this isn't just about physical endurance. It's about mental strength. The guards are trained to ignore distractions, to not react to provocations, and to stay silent no matter what. This stoic demeanor is not only for show, it is a reflection of their professionalism and their commitment to the duty they uphold. They are, at their core, a symbol of British pride and military precision. So the next time you see a royal guard at Buckingham Palace, remember that they are not just statues in a grand royal landscape. They are highly trained soldiers who carry out one of the most prestigious roles in the British military. What appears to be a simple ceremonial role is actually a testament to their strength, discipline, and unwavering focus. While tourists may see them as part of the background, the royal guards are the quiet warriors who stand guard, ensuring the safety and dignity of the British monarchy day after day. While the royal guards at Buckingham Palace might appear as statues frozen in time, standing motionless in their iconic red uniforms and towering bearskin hats, the truth is far more intense. Behind those stoic exteriors lies the unwavering discipline of active duty soldiers. As we've seen, these guards are highly trained military professionals, capable of defending the monarchy and the nation in real combat situations. But their role goes even deeper than that. There are strict, often misunderstood rules that govern their behavior, and the consequences for crossing these lines can be both shocking and swift. For many tourists, the Royal Guard is seen as a living statue, a symbol of British tradition and pageantry. But for some, their sense of humor or curiosity leads them to test the limits of the Guard's discipline, often in ways that can get them into serious trouble. People try to provoke the Guards, to get them to laugh, smile, or even react in any way. Some go as far as making funny faces or yelling at the Guards, all in an attempt to get a response. Yet, the Royal Guard's role is clear. They must remain motionless, stoic, and unyielding in their duty. But here's where it gets interesting. Tourists, who try to touch the Guards or provoke them in any way, quickly learn that there are serious consequences for their actions. The Guards are trained to handle such situations with unshakable professionalism. In fact, the Royal Guard's training includes handling physical confrontations with poise, responding with control rather than aggression. Tourists may not realize it, but every Royal Guard is equipped with a deep understanding of conflict de-escalation. One famous incident occurred when a man at Windsor Castle decided to test the Guard's patience by placing his hand on the Guard's shoulder. What he didn't anticipate was the immediate response. A rifle raised as a warning. The Guard's action was swift and precise, a clear signal that this breach of personal space would not be tolerated. Another well-known incident at Buckingham Palace involved a guard loudly shouting, "Make way for the Queen's Guard," before physically pushing aside a tourist who had obstructed his path. The reaction was both immediate and decisive, demonstrating just how seriously the Royal Guards take their duty. The idea that the Royal Guard is only there for show couldn't be further from the truth. Their role is about maintaining order and respect for the institution they serve. Every time a guard takes their post, they are there not just as a figurehead of British tradition, but as a soldier upholding a tradition of respect, discipline, and responsibility. Their unwavering silence in the face of provocation is an essential part of their duty. What many people fail to realize is that this level of discipline doesn't come easily. The training to be a Royal Guard is as intense as any military program. It's about mental resilience as much as physical endurance. Guards are taught to ignore the distractions around them, the loud crowds, the tourists who attempt to provoke them, the cameras that click away constantly. They must remain focused, embodying the essence of self-control. There's no room for error in this job. A single misstep, a single lapse in judgment, can be costly. This is why the Royal Guards' discipline is so highly valued. They are not merely performing a ceremonial duty. They are representing an institution that demands the highest levels of respect. They do not respond to provocation because they understand that their role transcends the fleeting attention of tourists. They are the embodiment of the British monarchy's values: respect, dignity, and composure. When you witness a Royal Guard at Buckingham Palace, remember this is not a performance. It's a reflection of an incredible commitment to duty and an unparalleled sense of responsibility. But the training doesn't stop at standing still. It includes the ability to deal with stressful situations and react appropriately without breaking formation. This discipline ensures that no matter the provocation or the difficulty of the task, the Guard remains focused on the bigger picture, maintaining the security and dignity of the monarchy. So, the next time you're at Buckingham Palace and see a Royal Guard standing stoic, don't be fooled by their seemingly unmoving stance. What you're witnessing is not just a figure in a uniform. You're witnessing someone who has been trained to withstand pressure, to ignore distractions, and to protect one of the most respected institutions in the world. The tension between the royal guard and Marcus was palpable, thick in the air like electricity before a storm. By now, the guard had endured Marcus's taunts, his insults, and the blatant attempts to provoke him into breaking his stoic stance. Yet the guard remained unmoved, his face expressionless, his posture unwavering. To the onlookers, it was a display of incredible strength, but to Marcus it was the ultimate test, one he was determined to win. He paced in front of the guard, his voice rising with each insult. "You think you're tough just standing there? I've faced down gangs, survived bar fights that would make your knees shake. What have you done except stand there looking pretty in a fancy uniform?" Marcus's bravado was on full display, but deep down, something was shifting. His confidence was being chipped away by the guard's sheer composure, by the utter lack of reaction that Marcus had never encountered before. The crowd had started to notice. At first, there was fear in their eyes, fear that something would go terribly wrong. As Marcus circled the guard, his confidence began to feel more like desperation. The tension had reached a breaking point, and no one knew what would happen next. In his frustration, Marcus found himself reaching for the heavy metal chain hanging from his belt. He fingered the cool links, a sound of metal on metal ringing, through the tense silence. The chain swung gently, almost rhythmically, as if the motion itself was the first sign of a storm on the horizon. Tourists instinctively took a step back, sensing that a line was about to be crossed. Marcus, however, was oblivious. His focus was solely on breaking the guard, on getting a reaction out of him. He squared his shoulders, puffed out his chest, and leaned in close. "Show me something real," he demanded, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "Let's see what you're made of." The guard remained silent, still as a statue, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut. The onlookers held their breath, watching, waiting for the storm that was inevitably coming. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. His mind raced. He could sense the crowd watching, the tourists pulling out their phones, eager to capture what was unfolding. Marcus had no idea, though. In his mind, this was still his show, his moment to shine. He couldn't see the reality that was quickly dawning on him. He was no longer in control. As the chain swung, gathering momentum with each rotation, Marcus's cocky grin widened. This was it. This would be the moment where he would show everyone who truly held power. But just as the chain reached its peak, something happened. The guard's eyes, which had been fixed ahead, suddenly snapped to Marcus's gaze. It was the shift Marcus hadn't expected, the one that sent a chill down his spine. For the first time, Marcus saw not indifference but readiness, calm, controlled, yet undeniably present. The guard's unwavering focus was no longer on the horizon. It was on him. And that look, that piercing stare, sent an unmistakable message. Marcus had underestimated him. The crowd held their breath as Marcus, with a smirk of triumph still on his lips, swung the chain towards the guard's head. Time seemed to slow as the metal links whistled through the air, closing the distance between them. But before Marcus could even process what was happening, the guard moved. In one fluid, almost impossibly fast motion, the guard's arm shot out and grabbed the chain mid-swing. The metal links bit into his gloved palm, but he didn't flinch. He didn't even break his posture. The chain, which had been an extension of Marcus's power, was now nothing more than a tool caught in the guard's unshakable grip. Marcus froze, his triumphant expression faltering in an instant. His mind scrambled to process the scene unfolding before him, but it was too late. The chain was caught, and the guard, who had remained silent and still through the entire ordeal, now turned his full attention to Marcus. There was no anger in his eyes, no emotion at all, just a quiet readiness that spoke volumes about the true nature of power. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt small. The bravado he had built his reputation on began to crumble in the face of the guard's silent strength. He tugged at the chain, but it was as though he was pulling against steel. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He was outmatched. This wasn't a street brawl, where his fists and threats ruled the day. This was something entirely different. The guard wasn't trying to overpower him. He was simply neutralizing the threat with an effortless, disciplined grace. As Marcus's mind raced, his frustration turned to something else. Fear. For the first time, he was faced with someone who didn't need to raise their voice, didn't need to fight back with violence. The guard's calm demeanor, his unwavering discipline, was a force that no amount of street fighting experience could ever prepare him for. The crowd, which had been nervous at first, now watched in stunned silence, awestruck by the display of control. Marcus's bravado was gone, replaced by a deep sense of humiliation. He had swung a chain at a royal guard, expecting to show his strength. But instead, he had been shown what true strength looked like. As the chain swung through the air, the crowd held its collective breath. This was the moment that would define the showdown between Marcus and the royal guard. Marcus, fueled by a surge of adrenaline and arrogance, felt like he was finally going to prove his strength. The metal chain, a symbol of his self-made power, was now aimed directly at the guard's head. He was certain this would be the moment that would break the guard's stoic demeanor, make him flinch, or, at the very least, give him a reaction. But what happened next was something Marcus couldn't have anticipated. The chain whistled through the air, its arc a blur of metal, growing closer and closer to its target. Marcus's eyes gleamed with triumph as he watched it approach. For a split second he felt invincible, like he was about to be crowned the victor in a battle of wills. The onlookers, too, seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the explosion of action. The confrontation they knew was inevitable. But the explosion never came. In a movement so swift that it was nearly imperceptible to the human eye, the royal guard's arm shot out, catching the chain mid-swing with one smooth, calculated motion. The metal links bit into the guard's gloved palm, but he didn't flinch, didn't even blink. His grip tightened, halting the chain's deadly path with effortless precision. It was a moment that left Marcus frozen, staring in disbelief. His cocky grin vanished as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by a stunned silence. The crowd gasped collectively, the tension in the air now palpable. Marcus tugged weakly at the chain, but it felt like he was pulling against a steel wall. His initial shock gave way to panic, a growing sense of helplessness washing over him. His tough exterior, his bravado, began to crumble in the face of the guard's calm, unshakable strength. The royal guard's posture never wavered. His eyes remained locked on Marcus, calm and composed, his face still an unreadable mask of discipline. There was no anger, no fury in those eyes, just a steady, unyielding presence that seemed to freeze Marcus in his tracks. Every ounce of Marcus's self-assurance, his belief in his own power, began to evaporate in the face of the guard's implacable calm. For the first time, Marcus felt something he had never truly experienced before. Fear. Not fear of physical pain, but the kind of fear that comes when you realize you're not in control anymore, when your bravado and threats fall flat in the face of something stronger than yourself. The guard didn't need to say a word. His mere presence, his quiet command of the situation, was enough to reduce Marcus's aggression to nothing. Marcus tugged harder on the chain, his frustration mounting as he tried to regain control, but it was futile. The guard's grip was like iron. No amount of struggling would break it. Marcus's mind raced, but the more he fought, the more he realized that this wasn't a battle he could win. He had miscalculated. What he had thought was strength. His street-smart bravado, his reliance on force, was nothing compared to the guard's discipline and control. The crowd began to sense the shift. What they had initially feared was now something entirely different. They weren't witnessing a confrontation of aggression and power. They were witnessing the quiet strength of self-control. The guard wasn't responding with force. He was responding with discipline. Every move he made was precise, deliberate, and measured. Nothing wasted, nothing unnecessary. As Marcus struggled, the guard's eyes, once locked on some distant point, now focused entirely on him. There was no judgment in the guard's gaze, only the quiet, undeniable power of restraint. And in that moment, Marcus saw the truth. The guard's power wasn't in his fists, his speed, or his strength. It was in his ability to remain calm, to control the situation without ever losing his composure. The realization hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. His entire definition of power, of what it meant to be strong, was wrong. The crowd, which had been nervous, now watched in awe. What they had expected to be a physical confrontation had turned into a profound lesson in the power of self-discipline and control. Marcus's tough exterior, his anger and his defiance were no match for the calm, unwavering strength of the royal guard. For the first time in his life, Marcus was forced to confront the limitations of his bravado. His street fighter tactics seemed childish compared to the guard's fluid, graceful movements. The guard had neutralized his attack with no effort, with nothing but his training and restraint. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Marcus, once the undisputed alpha in his world, now found himself powerless against a force that didn't need to fight back. As Marcus struggled against the royal guard's unyielding grip, something inside him began to break. The chain that had once symbolized his dominance now felt like a heavy weight around his wrist, a symbol of his own failure. His earlier bravado, the confidence that had propelled him through countless bar fights and street altercations, was now nowhere to be found. For the first time he was outmatched, not by brute force but by the calm, deliberate control of the guard's response. The reality of the situation settled over Marcus like a cold wave. No amount of strength or aggression could overpower the guard's quiet discipline. The royal guard stood as still as a statue, his posture perfect, his gaze locked on Marcus with an intensity that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. There was no anger, no fear, no hesitation in the guard's eyes, just the steady certainty of someone who had seen and endured much more than a cocky biker trying to provoke him. The crowd, which had been on edge, now stood in stunned silence. Tourists who had gathered to witness the spectacle watched in awe as the confrontation unfolded. They had expected a showdown, a physical battle, but what they were witnessing was something entirely different. The royal guard wasn't fighting Marcus. He was teaching him a lesson, one that Marcus hadn't been prepared for. As the guard continued to hold the chain with effortless ease, Marcus's frustration grew. He tugged harder, his muscles straining beneath his leather vest, but it was no use. The chain remained immobile, held in place by the guard's calm, controlled grip. The longer Marcus struggled, the more he realized how powerless he truly was. His tough guy persona, which had earned him respect on the streets, meant nothing here. Against the guard's professional training, his aggression was nothing more than noise. "You think you're better than me?" Marcus growled, his voice rising with desperation. "I've fought in bars, faced down gangs. What have you done? Stand there looking pretty in your fancy uniform?" The guard didn't flinch, didn't respond with anger or words. Instead, he remained still, his focus unwavering. It was as if he had already won without lifting a finger. And that's when it hit Marcus. The real power wasn't in the ability to throw a punch or to intimidate others. It was in the control to remain calm, to be unshaken in the face of provocation. The guard's silence spoke volumes. The more Marcus yelled, the more his words lost their weight. In that moment, the difference between them became crystal clear. Marcus's street-fighting mentality, his need to prove himself through force and bravado, couldn't compete with the guard's composure, his mental and emotional strength. The guard wasn't trying to dominate Marcus. He was simply existing, calm and unbothered, proving that true power lies not in aggression, but in restraint. Marcus's grip on the chain faltered. His body trembled, not from physical exertion, but from the dawning realization that he had underestimated this man, this soldier. His mind raced as he tried to think of a way out, a way to salvage his pride, but it was too late. The guard's grip remained firm, unyielding, and for the first time in his life, Marcus felt completely out of control. The crowd watched in silence, no longer afraid, but now understanding the true nature of strength. It wasn't about who could shout the loudest, who could swing the hardest. It was about the ability to stand firm, to control one's impulses, and to remain unmoved by the chaos around you. The guard's calmness, his ability to handle the situation with such effortless grace, was the real victory here. Marcus had been outclassed, and he knew it. With a final, measured movement, the guard tightened his grip on the chain, pulling Marcus toward him. The tension that had been building in the air suddenly snapped. The guard's eyes locked onto Marcus's with laser-like intensity, and in that moment, Marcus knew he had lost. His swagger, his tough guy image, all of it had crumbled in the face of the guard's unshakable discipline. "True power isn't about how hard you can swing a chain," the guard said, his voice low and steady. "It's about discipline, control, and the wisdom to know when not to use force." Marcus's eyes widened as the weight of those words sank in. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He wasn't dealing with just a soldier in a uniform. He was facing a man who had seen real conflict, a man who understood the value of restraint. The guard had not only neutralized Marcus's attack, but he had also dismantled his worldview with a few simple words. Marcus was left speechless, standing there, caught in the stark contrast between his own misguided sense of power and the guard's quiet, controlled strength. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this intense showdown between Marcus and the Royal Guard. What did you think of Marcus's approach and his ultimate realization about strength? Do you agree with the guard's perspective that true power lies in discipline and restraint? Or do you think strength should be measured by actions and aggression? Have you ever had a moment where you learned a tough lesson about power or control? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your personal experiences and opinions. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release new stories that dive deep into unexpected confrontations, life lessons, and more. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next incredible tale we've got in store. We can't wait to share even more exciting, thought-provoking content with you. Thank you for being part of our journey. Let's keep the conversation going. Share your views, share this video with friends, and let's continue exploring the stories that challenge our perceptions of strength and power.